we're going to talk to Dan about his experience going from intern to full-time. So when I started to, am I sitting on my microphone now? Am I okay? I just realized, oh good, okay. So when Danya and I touched base about the different topics of these programs, Danya emailed all of, a bunch of her companies to say, does anyone really connect with any of these themes? And so Dan responded to the intern to full-time. So we're gonna start with him telling his story. I have a few questions for him after I online stalked him a little bit to learn about his background, and then we'll just open it up to general Q&A about anything we talked about, and then we'll talk about goals as well. So why don't you kick it off and give a little background on your intern to full-time story.
Sure, so first I'd like to just say everything Emily said I think is just dead on, just really, really good sound advice, so definitely take it to heart. So my internship story, I interned in finance. I started college pre-med, didn't like bio, left that. I'd never heard of finance before. Sophomore year of college, I heard of Goldman Sachs or any of these companies. Didn't know anything about what the job was, but a friend kind of told me, check this thing out. It's like pretty interesting stuff. You might like it, so I checked it out. Joined the finance club on campus, and just got kind of involved that way. And it, actually the finance club at my school was a lot like what FindSpark seems like. It was a lot of advice on how to go through the interview process, how to build your resume, just what to expect, and it was really, really great. It was really helpful. And the way I found my first job in finance happened to be through this organization. So it was a very, very similar experience, and so this really relates a lot to me. The way I got my job, so yeah, I was trying to get an internship in finance in 2008. 2008 is when Lehman went bankrupt and the credit crisis, and all these companies, all these giant finance banks went under, and it was just like a huge disaster. And so there were a lot of hiring freezes. It was really tough to get an internship. And that's when I was going into the industry, so it was not great timing on my part. But I still went for it. I was very interested in it, so applied for 50 or 100 jobs through the Career Center. When you're a student, it's nice because you have all these resources available to you. I think it's a lot harder once you get out of that environment, but that's why organizations like FindSpark are so great, because they can help you kind of figure out what those paths are. So I interviewed for probably 50 or 100 jobs. I mean, again, it's such a slog, learning about all these companies and all these different potential roles and figuring out what I wanted to do. I think one thing that was really, really useful at that point was having a good sense of what the different roles are in the industry that you want to work in, and kind of pinpointing what you want to do. And so for me, that was trading. I wanted to be a trader. In finance, there's trading, there's banking, there's wealth management, research. They're all very, very different. You think of them all as kind of the same thing because it's all finance, but they're very, very different environments, very different hours. Everything about it is different other than the industry. And so having a good sense of what those differences are, so when you go into an interview, you can talk about why you want the specific job and not, just to be in this industry. So I knew I wanted to do trading. Unfortunately, my school's on the West Coast, and on the West Coast, most recruiting was for banking. And the hardest thing is getting your foot in the door. So I was totally not to do that too. Went through, 25 or 30 first-round interviews, got 4 second-round interviews, flew to LA, flew to New York, did all these interviews, didn't get a single offer, not from any of these companies. I wasn't a great interview back then, but I was okay, and I was a pretty good candidate, I thought. But these companies didn't think so. But I would still reach out. It was similar. I'd reach out to my parents, I'd reach out to my friends, just if anyone knew anything, knew about any jobs. And I got a couple kind of potential internships that I could do, that I kind of had in my back pocket, but they weren't exactly what I wanted to do. I had a job offer in wealth management, but I wanted to be a trader, so I still kind of kept my ears open, kept my eyes open. And maybe 2 months after that, so spring quarter, almost the end of the year, it's 3 a.m., I'm working on a programming project, it's a team project, so I happened to be up, so I was lucky. I got a phone call from a buddy of mine who happened to be the CEO of the finance club, so, kind of my version of Emily at the time, my mentor. He calls me up, he says, hey, do you want to interview at RBC? RBC is the Royal Bank of Canada. Do you want to interview at RBC in the city in 4 hours? And I was like, yes, definitely. I don't know, never heard of this company, no idea what this job is, but I definitely want to do it. So I ditched my team, I take an hour and a half shower, take the train out to the city, meet this guy. He had happened to work with my buddy the year before at his internship. He was in San Francisco on a sales call. He was based in New York. He was a sales guy on the trading floor. It happened to be just kind of like my dream job, my dream internship. And so went into that interview. One of the questions he asked is, pitch me a stock. It's a very common finance question. Again, knowing what the types of questions you should expect going into whatever industry you're interviewing for, super useful. So I pitched him a stock. He's like, oh, that's great. And pitch me another stock. I only have one stock pick. I don't know any more stocks. So that wasn't that great. But ultimately, I had some programming background. They wanted, a trading intern who knew some programming. So it was just a good fit. Got me my internship. I wound up interning for this guy, Robert Park, who's the CTO of IEX, my company now. And his boss, who's Brad Katsuyama, who's the CEO of my company now. So his internship in 2008 wound up turning into my full-time job, wound up turning into my, my team left to start a new company. So as a founder of a company with the people that I work for in my internship, it's kind of crazy, lucky coincidence, I guess. But all of it came from just being very prepared, having gone through a lot of interviews, having known what to expect, being very kind of willing to be spontaneous and accept an opportunity, not being lazy, not just being like, oh, 3 a.m., like I want to go to sleep, I don't want to be hours, taking a train out to the city, just kind of going for every single opportunity because you never know what one is going to lead to that amazing dream internship.
Very cool. So one of the questions that we got from people when they signed up was sort of how to ask for help. Right, so as I mentioned, I think startup culture can be really fast, but even banking, finance is really fast. So sometimes what I've heard is that people can feel a lot of pressure to just know what they're supposed to do and are unsure of how to reach out to a supervisor if they're really busy, or a mentor, or that kind of thing. So what are your tips from when you were an intern yourself on getting the mentorship and getting the help you needed, and now as someone who probably works with interns or junior level people, what do you like to see in terms of the way people reach out to you for help?
Sure. So definitely you don't ever want to be a burden to the people you're working for. You don't want to be a pain in the ass. You want to be really nice and pleasant and never demanding on their time. You have to be very cognizant of what you're asking for. So you don't want to be, you don't want to be a burden. I think depending on the size of your company, hopefully there's at least a few people and at least someone who's very nice and pleasant, and people like that you should kind of gravitate towards. People who are willing to help. I'm always willing to help our interns on other teams. I'm very friendly towards interns. Not everyone at my company is like that. Most people are. Your manager might not be that kind of person. If your manager is that kind of person who's very supportive and open and available, definitely utilize them. Again, be cognizant of their time, be well prepared going in, know exactly what you're asking for. But don't feel bad about asking questions, especially if you're well prepared and you have reasonable asks. If your manager is not that kind of person, or you don't have a formal mentor, finding other people at the company. I do this all the time. I go to our interns, I go to our junior hires, and I say, hey, I do our culture orientation. So I meet with every single person when they join, and I always say, if you ever have any questions, something you don't feel comfortable going to your manager about the company, something that's not working that well, come ask me for help, and I'm happy to step in and help. And I feel like most people will have someone in their life, someone in their company, who will make the same offer. And if someone makes that offer, take them up on that offer. It's very rarely do people actually take me up on that offer, but anytime they do, I make the offer because I mean it. So it's real. So if you're someone like that, go for it.
Yeah, and I think that's something I hear a lot too. People are hesitant to actually take help that they're offered. When I taught this last semester at LIM, I gave this bonus assignment. I said, if you guys get in all the stuff that's due anyway, if you get it in ahead of time, I will introduce you to anyone in my network who you think would be a good match. And out of I had probably about 60 students last semester, so 4 different classes. I had 2 people take me up on it. And the one girl who I made the introduction to, the person immediately said, yeah, sure. I said, go for it. And her reply, she said, should I email them? I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So I think that's like a really good point, is people, even when they put themselves out there, still people are afraid to speak up. So that's really great advice. So now onto sort of the more networking side of things. Obviously you made a really amazing impression on your manager, the two guys who you now, went on to start this company. They pulled you away, right? So what do you think were some of the key elements in what you did to stand out, to not only get promoted within, but then to get pulled out to work for them somewhere else?
Sure. So yeah, I think one thing with networking that you need to keep in mind is it's not just collecting a network, collecting all these connections, superficial connections, where I know this person who's in a powerful spot who I can just hit up whenever I need them. If it's not this meaningful connection, meaningful reciprocal connection, it's not worth anything. So your network is your most valuable asset. I would definitely agree with that statement when it comes to your career, but not just having that connection, but having that be a meaningful connection. So in terms of this situation with my 2 bosses, it was just that, as an intern, I feel like I was very productive. them. I helped them look good. I had a lot of good output, and so they appreciated that, and so they wanted me to be with them because I helped them succeed in their careers. So you definitely want that kind of reciprocal relationship where it's not just you're not just latching onto this person, riding their coattails, but it's this symbiotic relationship where they're helping you, but you're also helping them, and you're helping them be successful so that they can't really live without you.
Be indispensable, right? Okay. Great. And in terms of kind of practical, like nitty-gritty networking tips and etiquette, right? So I think people love to complain about millennials. We're so self-obsessed. We're always on social media. But what I always say is, well, we and millennials, we have an entire additional layer of etiquette to deal with beyond just meeting people in public and having a good handshake and that kind of thing. So in terms of networking etiquette online and offline, what are some things that now, as someone who does culture orientation, or maybe now someone high up in this company, you probably get a lot of requests and that kind of thing. What are some things that when you see you're like, yeah, I want to help that person or meet up, and then what are some things that you see where you're like, ugh, there's no way I want to help this person?
So definitely always following up. If you send me an email and I give you a response and you don't give me any feedback on that, that's not a good thing. But just generally, attitude is so important. Always going above and beyond, always following through on everything that you ask for. In terms of internship too, just little things like being the first one in the office or showing up before your manager does and leaving after your manager leaves. Little things like that make kind of a difference. You don't want anyone ever to get a small wrong impression because of some stupid little thing like that. So also just being nice to everyone. Especially in finance, I don't know if this is as true in other industries, but if you're a front office intern, you may think, I'm going to be this hotshot banker one day. Support staff or back office, they don't matter, and don't treat them with respect. And it's crazy to me that, these are people, first of all, and you're an intern, you're at the bottom of the turtle. You're below everyone. You should be, super eager to help anyone. Always be here, always go above and beyond. Things like that. I think another thing, I guess for me, thinking back just on my finance internship, at a bigger company where there's a lot of different people in a lot of different roles, spending my days when everyone's in the office, shadowing people, meeting with people, again, trying really hard not to be a burden, so don't ask them questions while they're trying to do their job, but especially the nice people who are willing to have you sit with them, ask them a couple questions about what they're doing, and then just watch them work, see what they're doing, listen in on their phone calls, don't try to get in the way, don't do anything that's going to make them, them worse at their jobs, but just try to take advantage of those opportunities, and then whatever work you have to do that on your own time after hours or earlier before the day starts. Just kind of using your time in that way, but the opportunities that are presented to you, taking advantage of them in a way that's not disruptive to other people.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point of people following up after you do help them, right? Because in terms of what you can give back when you're just an intern or just junior level, I think a lot of times people want to help you if you're awesome. If you're kick-ass at your job, they think, hey, I want to be a part of this person's career. I want to help them because they're going to be leading a company someday, right? Which is what happened with you. So I think one of the biggest things you can do to sort of give back is to just say, after you meet up, say, hey, I followed through on your advice to do X, Y, and Z, and it worked out really well. Or, hey, thanks for suggesting that book because I read it, and you're right, total life changer, right? And then you feel a sense of, oh, okay, I actually was able to help them, and that's definitely a way to reciprocate.
Or also just, let's say you sit with someone who's not on your team and they spend an hour with you, they let you know what they do, and they let you listen on a call. Just afterwards say, hey, I saw you were doing this thing, do you do this every day? Maybe I can help you out with that. Try to take some load off them, give something back. Just kind of keep the relationship going. Also, so when I was an intern, I probably spent 30% of my day getting coffee and lunch for everyone. It's funny because in the very first day, Brad is our CEO now, he ran trading at RBC. He sat down with the four of us interns. He said, I know you probably think that most internships in finance, it's just getting coffee and lunch for people. This one's going to be different. You don't have to do that stuff. I don't want you guys doing any of that stuff. I want you focusing on the job. I want you learning how to trade. I want you learning about the company. And by day 2, we volunteered. No one asked us to do it, but we volunteered to get lunch and coffee for people because traders need to be on the desk. And if they had to leave to get their own lunch, then it's less productivity for the company. You as the intern, your time is the least valuable to the company. And also just get coffee for someone. They're really appreciative and they're much more willing to help you out. So it's it's multiple wins. So don't feel like anything's beneath you. That stuff is definitely good stuff.
Awesome. All right, cool. So I want to open it up to questions. And I would say one great networking tip too is when you come to events like these or even big events, FindSpark, we do lots of big events. We actually published a blog post called How to Ask a Good Question at an Event because it's really important. But yeah, I would love maybe if everyone wants to ask like one question related to anything that I mentioned earlier on, or also of course to what Dan and his experience.
But what was your most valuable asset starting in your company that helped you move up?
My most valuable asset? It's a good question. I don't know if me in particular if I was that strong at this, but the most valuable thing I see in interns, I've seen really good interns and kind of okay interns and bad interns. And the really good interns, what distinguishes them is not necessarily their skill set or their background or their speaking ability or their networking ability, but just their attitude, always being willing to help, just being really nice and positive, having high energy, but just being like a really eager beaver to just do work and help you all the time. That's a really good quality in an intern. I'd say the okay interns do their job, but they're not extra proactive, but they're good, they have the right skills and they're doing a good job. And the bad interns, again, it has nothing to do with how good they are at their job, they do the work and they're good at it, but they have an ego, and they think they're too good for stuff, and it just rubs people the wrong way. So as an intern, attitude is so important.
And beyond interning, just
Beyond
life in general, right?
Totally. Yeah, it's a nice little compliment.
So one of the questions that I had, so when you're asking somebody, I'll just give you an example. So in asking somebody for an informational interview at the company I'm working, or somebody who I aspire to be in terms of their position, say I send them the email and they don't reply. Do I send another one, say, hey, did you see my first one? Do I just let it go? How do you navigate that space?
So personally, I probably wouldn't cold email anyone in a company. I would go through your manager and say, who are interesting people I should meet with? Or I think this person would be really interesting to meet. Do you know them? Or can you introduce me to someone else who knows them? Help make that connection, or go to the HR person. If someone doesn't respond to an email or says no or ignores you, I would say probably just move on. Probably not interested. Maybe you'll remind them once. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think whenever possible, get a connection. So whether that be within, internally within the company you're at, or, externally if you're just, trying to get a connection in a company, use every possible method to try to get it in, friends, family, career center, college, find some sort of person who can maybe introduce you on the next level, some sort of common bond that you can bring up. So maybe you didn't find anyone who can make the connection, but you went to the same school or from the same town, or there's some sort of information online you can use to make a good, cold email. But I do give the advice that I believe sending one email is like sending none at all, because people are so busy. So I think it's always worth following up once, at least, depending on how badly you want the connection. So that could be just replying to that same email, a week and a half or 2 weeks later and say, hey, just wanted to, check in and see if you had some time in the next upcoming weeks. Also to do your research and see, is there a platform that's a better method of reaching out? So many people are inundated by email, and their inboxes are overflowing, and it might be more realistic to get their attention on Twitter, or to send a custom LinkedIn invitation if you see there's somewhere they're very active. But I would agree that after a couple of times, it's probably not worth your time, because there are so many people out there who would be willing to help you, where I think it's a waste of energy to spend too much time following up with the same person. But you also never know. We actually created a guide, the ultimate informational email guide through FindSpark, and we reached out to a lot of people to share real examples of outreach they've sent and responses. And sometimes people will follow up or reply a month later or weeks later and say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm just getting to this now. So you never know, but definitely better spending your time on people who are more responsive.
I would add to that. So I get a lot of emails from people who want to work at our companies, which is awesome because that helps me help our companies. But because I get a lot of requests, it's really hard for me to parse through all of them and figure out who's great, where they're coming from, like what company they're interested in. So I actually think the email itself makes a really big difference. And if you're reaching out to someone who maybe doesn't know you or who's been introduced to you, you do want to make sure that you're super clear with your ask. Actually, to Dan's point earlier, like it's probably a busy person. Everybody's busy, but it's probably a busy person, and they don't yet know what's in it for them. Even if they're not thinking about it that way, I think it's like the natural underlying theme of like, why should I respond to this email? Like, yeah, it would be nice for me to help someone. They're up and coming, but like, I have my job to do. So I would say two things are really important. One, be really clear about who you are. Like, they're not going to go research you just because you emailed them. So link to something. It could be your Twitter, it could be your LinkedIn, it could be all of the above. And be super succinct. Like, I loved your framework for like a Twitter bio. Like, just tell them who you are, what you've been doing, why you're reaching out to them, and a really specific ask. Like, I'm looking to join a startup. I checked out all the Spark Capital portfolio companies. Here's a little bit about my background. And so these 4 companies seem like it'd be a really awesome place for me to work. In fact, I found 3 open roles. Do you have 15 minutes to hop on the phone or whatever, or even just to reply to the email? I'd love to be introduced, or whatever your ask is. Basically, don't make it as easy as freaking possible for the person you're asking for a favor from. Yeah.
Easy and specific to that person, not just this.
Right.
You could craft this amazing cover letter if it appears generic, if you send it to 20 different people, and that's something much less likely to receive than being specific about what I do at my company and how I can specifically help you.
That's a great point. In a former life, I was a recruiter, and the power of one sentence at the beginning of a total form email, as long as the email itself has like personality and is true to you, one sentence that it takes you 5 minutes to Google, like something personal about that person. Oh, I saw your recent tweet about whatever. Great article, just read it. That's all it takes. You'd be shocked.
And I would say overall, in terms of the job hunt and careers and that kind of thing, I have only ever heard that people have more success being more targeted, focused, and spending more time on less applications than people who just, apply to everything generically. They don't care, they're not focused, they'll do anything. It's so much better and you'll feel so much more comfortable if you find places where you really truly think you'll be a good fit, jobs you really think you'll do well at, and you spend a lot of time doing research and prepping throughout the entire process. And you'll still only end up getting one job, right? Like, I guarantee you'll get further in the process with more jobs. And getting further in the process is great because those people you had interviews with, maybe you weren't the final candidate or you chose something else, but now those are people who've learned a lot about you, and later on you might come back to or think of you. So as opposed to, again, going for lots of things and not getting anywhere because you're just being generic. Any questions? And you guys, somebody ask a question?
I have a question. How to ask the correct question?
Really simple answer to that. Ask people questions you cannot Google the answer to. So, for instance, a lot of people will ask me, or maybe this happens to your founders, like, why did you start this company? And if you just look me up, you can so easily find like many different stories about like kind of my background of why I started FindSpark. So I think asking people their personal opinions. So like, what project are you working on right now that you're really excited about? Don't ask them where they went to school or what they did beforehand, because like I can look up there and find out all of that information, right? So if you have like precious face-to-face time with people during an interview at a networking event, I think diving deeper beyond like surface level things you can easily Google. Or do you have it?
Yeah, that's good. Especially if it's something where you got time beforehand to, look me up and see what I do and see what my company does. That you have something. Yeah, something you can't remember is great. Build up.
Right, you want to actually ask a question that you're not going to get, that later on you can Google. So you want to ask them at the moment.
I'd be so impressed if, you read my blog post from 2 months ago and you asked me a question about it, I'd be like, my eyes would light up. Whereas if you ask me, did you start your company? It's fine. I'm happy to talk. I love talking about it, but it's less original and less distinguishing.
Which I think is just another tangential point about conversations, whether it's in your company or at an event. It's a lot more memorable to have a conversation about something that's personal or specific versus the kind of generic stuff. So of course there's the conversation that gets you into the conversation, like did you go to school, what are you doing now, whatever. But even if you don't know something about that person, having like a few questions in your back pocket or even a personal story that you can talk about that's not the same thing they're hearing from everyone else that they've met at the event. Yeah, memorable.
Agreed. Yeah. And for those of you who don't like talking, nervous or shy, great way to be a great networker is to ask questions and just let the other person do all the talking. If you've ever heard of the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, you know, that standard sort of like, I guess, networking book.
I have that book in my wish list.
Yeah, it's a great read. And one of the big things it says is, you know, if you ask a lot of great questions and get the other person talking, they'll leave and they'll say, oh my gosh, I had this great conversation with this young man. And then you'll realize, like, you know, you didn't actually say much, you know, it was all them talking. So, you know, asking good questions and keeping the other person engaged and actually listening to the answers and then going off of that. And like, I liked your example of, you know, if you do get a chance to job shadow someone, you know, they go, don't just say, oh, thanks, it was great, but then go back and say, oh, hey, you know, I noticed that you did this and I had a question about it, or can I help you with it? Because it shows that you're actually paying attention, you are listening, and you're not doing it just to do it, or asking a question just to ask it. Do you have a question?
Okay. What's the best way to network within a company? Like, what's like a good way to get to know people from across departments? Especially as an intern, it's pretty hard to get into their circle, especially when you're from a different department. So, are there any tips for that?
So it's kind of what I just said, which is go through other people that you already work with, you do know well, and who are you like and you like you, and you trust, and say, who would it be interesting for me to meet? Well, I found these people, or want to meet someone in this department. Do you know any of them? Do you know someone who knows them? They introduce me. This is why I'm interested in. So that they thought you said something very specific about me, or going through a connection instead of looking at the stuff.
Yeah, and I think, you know, also never eat alone in terms of, you know, any opportunity that you have to chat with someone at the company, whether that's, you know, at a company happy hour, at lunch. If you notice that people, you know, order out a lot, you know, we don't have the budget to order out every time, but, you know, at least ordering in with them a couple of times. I had an internship at a record label my junior year, and I'm not a smoker, but I would go outside when my bosses had smoke breaks just to kind of like shoot the shit with them, and that's where I learned a lot about the industry, like they were relaxed. I don't want to make that association, so it's bad for you, but you know, so any opportunity to just be in more of a casual setting, and even just to be a fly on the wall, that's a great opportunity to learn more and then to give you information about reaching out and that kind of thing. And also just, you know, if you know there's someone who's really busy who you want to meet with, you know, like Dan said, is there anyone else in the company you can reach out to and say, hey, I really want to get like lunch on the calendar with Ben, like, do you know about his schedule and when you think would be like the best time to suggest meeting up with him? I don't want to be too pushy, but I only have 2 months left and I would love to get on his radar, like what do you suggest? And maybe they'll say, oh, you know what, if you just come in an hour early, like he always eats, you know, yogurt at like 8 a.m. You should just come in early and like have breakfast with him. He won't mind, he usually just, you know, browses on his phone. I don't know, but just trying to get that like insider information from other people. Cool. Alright, well it's like 8:15-ish, so yeah, I think we can save the rest of the time for you guys to chat with each other if you didn't all get to meet yet. And also just wanted to, oh, of course actually, so goals, before we let you go. Yeah. Goals, really important. So what I always emphasize is the importance of creating numbers-oriented goals, right? So just saying, create a better online presence is just very broad and not specific, and you'll never actually be able to reach that goal or know if you've reached that goal. So I just put up some examples of numbers-oriented goals, and again, we're going to share this on the Spark Sessions Hub that we've created, so you can get access to this. But so, would love everyone tonight to just think about what are 3 goals based on this talk and Dana's story that you can set for yourself, that you can achieve within the next month, and to make them be challenging but realistic, right? So saying I'm going to have 500 Twitter followers in a month, maybe possible, if you have some sort of algorithm you can set up or something, but try to stick to something you can actually achieve, but that will push yourself a bit beyond what you're already doing. And then of course I want to mention the other events that you have coming up. So these are all going to kind of go in a series in terms of, as you progress in your internship, more tips and things that you can use to really take full advantage of the opportunity you have, and then also maintain those connections, and then there'll be a closing party as well. So all of these RSVPs are in the Splash Hub that's within the page on FineSpark, so definitely come to future events, and we're also going to have all of these recorded and on that hub as well. So I want to give a thanks to Danya for organizing this, and Dan for see you at other events. Great. Thank you guys.
Thank you.